Sifu Raphael is the founder and host of Coaching Call, Heroes Rising, The Seer Show, and New Tip Daily. He works with individuals, groups, and businesses and helps them find clarity, purpose, and understanding of who they really are in business and personal life. Sifu Raphael has used his skills to develop a variety of multifaceted businesses in the martial arts and fitness industries. He owns and operates a 10,000 square foot martial arts and fitness facility in New York. Jose Escobar is an award-winning, nationally recognized personal development speaker, published author, and sales professional. He leads compelling, high-level communities consisting of entrepreneurs and advanced leaders through his two business models, the Entrepreneur's Bookshelf and the Connected Leaders Academy. He is also the co-host of Heroes Rising.
Welcome to Heroes Rising. There are some technical difficulties happening with StreamYard today, so we apologize for that. I have amazing guests in the backstage waiting to come on. I have Dr. Ravi and Rob Rene, and Jose is also trying to get on. He is also having technical difficulties. So let me bring in my guests and we can start from there. Hello,
Hi
gentlemen.
there.
How are you?
Hello,
Hi there.
fantastic. Thank you.
Woo. Thank you
Hi,
for
Rob.
joining
Can you
me.
hear me?
Yes, I
can.
can.
Wonderful. Finally, I was a little worried about that.
Dr. Ravi, I got to tell you, you were doing a great dance over there, setting everything up because it
No,
wasn't
because
working. I saw
yeah,
the
because
dance you were doing, man. You were like moving. I love it.
I was panicked because suddenly it wasn't working, and I was reconnecting everything again.
I saw. Great job. You're here. We're live.
Yeah.
The one who's having technical difficulties at the moment is my co-host Jose. Hopefully he'll be able to jump in really quick. So I wanna start by saying thank you to both of you for coming on Heroes Rising. This is a show where so many people tune in because there's so much great content, and I know that you both are going to be delivering some great content as well today. Tell us where you're coming in from, and then we can get started. Dr. Ravi, you can go first.
Hi there, Rafael. It's good to see you again. We just met a few weeks ago.
Mhm.
I'm coming in from Virginia, Northern Virginia, Fairfax County. Delighted to be here with you, all of you.
Yes, thank you. And Rob?
Yeah, I'm here from Dallas, Texas, and also just excited to be here and see how we can add value to people's lives. So excited to be here.
Beautiful. Excellent. Thank you both for being here. I want to start with my good friend. We became really good friends right away, Dr. Ravi Iyer. I'm going to tell you, we did a show and it was picked up by Cheryl Underwood, and it kind of took off from there. And I'll let you talk to that in a little bit about that. But Dr. Ravi, he's a physician. He's a scientist. Gosh, what is this man not doing? He's an inventor. He's an author. By the way, loving the book.
Oh, yeah, thanks.
With research publications and the mechanisms of gene control and several patents on FDA-registered veterinary and human medicines. Dr. Iyer serves as the CEO of ActivPower, Inc., a nutrition and wellness company that he founded. He was born in Mumbai and raised in eastern India. Life has taken Dr. Iyer from the medical colleges of the banks of Ganges, where he would swim each morning before heading to his lectures, to the rarefied ivory towers of academia as a scientist and postdoctoral fellow at Harvard Medical School. You are so in touch with everything that's going on. I am absolutely loving your book. I've had great insight from just reading just the first few pages, and then it brings you deep. You share such great and really intriguing stories. So thank you for everything that you've been doing and for being here. So I'd love to give you the stage, Doctor. Yeah, one thing I want to also say to both of you is when you get a chance, just put your link in the private chat so I can share how people can find you both. Okay. So Ravi, the stage is yours, my friend. I know you're typing away, but
I got it.
okay.
I put in the link. That's all.
Perfect.
I missed a W in that, but you can edit it.
Sure.
So one of the things that Raphael asked me to give a title, and I borrowed a line from the Gladiator movie, where he says, Marcus Aurelius says to Russell Crowe, he says, when death smiles at all of us, but only a few can smile back. For 3 years, we pretty much danced cheek to jowl with death as we were treating people with COVID. And one of the things that became obvious to me, and which eventually metamorphosed into the book that I wrote on that, was that the dominant narrative, we all live our lives in a story. We live a narrative. And the narrative pretty much rules the possibilities that are available to us. It rules our choices. It rules how the world shows up for us. Example, the dominant narrative in the pre-Columbus era was that the world is flat. And that narrative determined how the entire world conducted its naval and trade operations. Similarly, during COVID, there were several dominant narratives that determined whether people would make choices that would end up in them either living or dying. And in this process, I began to see how important it was to demonstrate that you people don't have to be a victim of their narratives. They can actually stand in the experience and actually decide which narrative they give power to.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what I call, when death smiles at you, can you smile back? Can you stand before death and stand in the experience of your own mortality and then choose how life shapes in front of you? The people who do that are the real courageous people. Some of them become courageous by accident, some of them become so by plan. But in every case, it is the ability to stand in the experience of what life is throwing at you and becoming separate from the story that your head is telling you about what life is throwing at you. And then deciding whether you can craft the story for your own and for your fellow humans' benefit. And in essence, this is the essence of what heroes do. Whether it is the Greek heroes of mythology, whether it is Ulysses or Odysseus, or whether it is Prometheus or Hercules, or the modern heroes of the world, it is always people who can stand in experience and control the narrative. And that is why I chose that title.
Mm. Yes, absolutely. I love it. I want to know more about what fuels you as far as when we consider everything that you went through in those 3 years during the beginning of COVID. Obviously, I'm reading it in your book, but you, from what I'm seeing, besides everybody out there being a superhero, you took control. You took control of the narrative that was being taken out of context, if you will, right? So would you mind telling us how you decided to go forward and take control and become the center for one of the most horrific things that were happening in our lives?
So one of the things that I built my life on is empowerment. The only basis for life is to empower people. And the most dominant experience of the pandemic was disempowerment. People and the stories they were saying to each other, about each other, and about themselves was essentially robbing them of options and robbing them of choices. And we were beset by a whole slew of people on platforms of mass media communication who were continuing to spew this fear and division and disempowering messages. But I had no time to wait for that. I had a population in my community who depended on me. And so we decided that, to hell with the rest of the people, we are going to step forward and take charge of the stories that are being told in our community. And we went out and communicated that effectively to them.
Mm-hmm.
We said that, listen, this is whatever they are saying. I don't want you to listen to it. Listen to me. And the way we made them listen to us is by putting ourselves at risk. You see, no one will believe you if you have no skin in the game. And we said, I will show you by putting myself at risk. I will stand there. I'll keep my doors open. I am not going to shut the door on your face and say you can't come for treatment. I don't care if you're sick. I'll find ways to treat you. If you can't come, I will find a way to come to your house and be safe myself and treat you. My first patients, one of them, a few days into their illness, he passed out and fell in the bathroom and injured his wrist. His wife panicked and called me, and both of them were sick with COVID. Both of them, she was worried that because she was worried that he had a fracture, and they didn't want to go to the hospital because she said that if I go to the hospital, they're going to admit him, and then I can't see him. And in those days, the hospital was even more dangerous than the community because all the sickest people were there. So she was petrified to go to the hospital, but she had a worry that her husband had fractured his hand. So we decided to gown up, mask up in their parking lot right outside their garage. We put up a lean-to shelter, a camp shower shelter, those little tents that they have for campsite showers.
Right, yes.
So I pulled one out from my basement and I set that up so that we could go in and use that as a changing room. And we changed into our PPE gear, me and my nurse, and then we walked into the house. And we treated him. Fortunately, he had only had a bad sprain. He didn't have a fracture. But the fact that we were walking in boldly, the fact that we had no medicine. In those days, there was no vaccine, there was no Paxlovid, there was nothing. So all we had was our confidence that we could reassure that we were willing to put ourselves at risk and take care of them. And by taking care of them, they were empowered by that. They felt, okay, this guy is putting his life at risk. You know what? I'm going to follow him. So that made the difference by actually stepping forward and taking charge. So once people saw us actually going out, keeping our doors open, taking care of people, and actually going out into the community when needed, that opened up the doors completely to them listening to our message. And once they listened to the message, I could show them how to keep safe, how to be safe, how to conduct themselves in the midst of the pandemic to be safe. But that brought me to my conclusion that it is at all times It is your ability to stand in the experience that allows you to control the narrative. Otherwise, the narrative will spin you into its own world, into its own experience. And this property is going to become more and more. Right now, we have 4 large technocrats. We have Mark Andreessen, Peter Thiel, Mark Zuckerberg, and Elon Musk, creating entire realities, the metaverse, the iPhone and all the platforms that are mounted on it. You know, the Elon Musk with his movement to Mars residency, Peter Thiel with this concept of singularity. The world is going to move more and more into a virtual reality narrative. And people are actually going to have a difficult time with the barrage of narratives that is going to control them. And if you don't discover how to stand apart from the narrative and pick and choose what determines the substance of your life, you are gone.
Dr. Ravi, I think that's an amazing concept and topic, right? Because the narrative is so important to how people live. And one of the things that I found through, that I really discovered through the pandemic was how the narrative was being crafted for us, not and like you mentioned, the people you just mentioned, they control a lot of the narrative. And then if you do research on Mockingbird Media, there's only 6 organizations that own all of the communication companies across the globe. And so they control the AKA mainstream narrative. And we as human beings need to not listen to that narrative and to understand our own narrative, right? And I think that's kind of what you're saying, is that we need to figure out our own narrative and listen to the right people. Like find Dr. Ravi, right? Dr. Ravi and what he's telling you is much more important than the mainstream narrative. And so, I come at it from a faith perspective. And so, my heroes are like the Bible heroes, right? And so I look at this pandemic and how we get through it as we need to have faith over fear. Because if you listen to the mainstream narrative, it's all about fear. It's like, oh, you have to do this because you're going to die. You have to do this because you're going to die. And it's like, oh my gosh, we're all going to die, instead of having faith. And I think like what your example was awesome, that you went in and just without knowing, you went in with boldness and were treating people. And then they then were able to listen to you through that. So I congratulate you for doing that. And thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
The litmus test, when you said that you have to find out the people the Dr. Ravi's, the litmus test of people whose narratives can be trusted is only one. Ask if the narrative empowers people to be bigger than who they are. If it does, then that's a trustworthy narrative.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
one of the things, Dr. Ravi, is not. Where do you keep your cape? Because I'm not seeing it right now, but where do you keep your cape? Because to me, you're a superhero, my friend. One of the things in your book that you wrote, and it really hit home for me, was there's a ship without a captain. Yeah. And that was what was happening in America and basically almost the whole world, because nobody knew how to handle this pandemic. There was chaos because of it, misinformation because of it. And like you both said, there was a narrative written by people who had no right to write it for us, right?
Yeah. But I think like what Dr. Ravi said is really important as well, is that it's just going to continue to get worse with the way that they're doing these virtual realities and these mega platforms, that they're able to control the narrative even better than they had in the past. But I think this pandemic has really opened up a great awakening for people, where they're really understanding that, hey, there is a narrative being created for me and it's not a good one. And so I better find sources that I can trust, that that are going to literally help me rather than have a negative plan for my life. If you follow the narrative, you're just going to be miserable and you're going to do the wrong things. Whereas if you find the right resources like Dr. Ravi, you're going to be able to take care of yourself and your family, and you're going to be able to live in faith over fear.
Absolutely. Well, I'd like to take this time to introduce you, Rob. Rob, you grew up as a gifted athlete and a runner with keen interest on health and using food and nutrients to fuel your body. This is the one that really gets me. You got hit by a truck and you were thrown 36 feet, nearly losing your life. And you had the dreams of becoming a professional runner. You struggled with years of addiction and lack of clear direction. Through God's guidance, you became a researcher on the takeover of our medical systems, frequencies, and quantum energy. And I know that's what you're going to be talking to us about also.
Yeah.
So through this research, you found quantum energy solutions that are helping people get off the addictive big pharma medications, which are huge. You also founded the QE Strong, a company dedicated to utilizing unique all-natural solutions to improve people's health. So I put in here, is it Quest or is it Q?
Yeah, it's QE, like quantum energy is what
I'm going to change that so I can put it back up.
QE Strong. So it's quantum energy strong.
Gotcha.
Is what it stands for. So yeah, cool. And the whole my whole life has been early on was about being an athlete, and that was my whole goal. Right, I'm going to go be a professional runner, and I learned really early on. I read a book called Eat to Win, and that book was amazing because it really taught that how important nutrition was to an athlete's performance, and that really got me excited, and it really accelerated my performance. I was so much of a better runner after I learned that trick. And it wasn't a trick, it's just how God made us, right? But most people didn't understand that. So I had a really big advantage, I think, when I was younger, and I just became a really decent runner. I got a full ride scholarship to a Division I school, and things were going great. And then, like you said, I had just made the U.S. junior team, so I was like the second best miler in the country. And then was out on a training run in the winter, and a truck literally came and behind me and hit me and threw me 36 feet. And to make a really long story short, I should have died that day, but my friend that was running with me saved me from choking to death. And I knew from that day forward that I was on this earth for a reason. I never, it took me a long time to understand what that reason was, because I did go through a really difficult period of time where I was really depressed and frustrated because I just lost my whole goal in life. But then I kind of look at the pandemic as my second truck, right? I got hit by another truck, but everybody got hit by this second truck with what happened with COVID. And when COVID hit, it really woke me up in the respect that something's wrong with our world. And so I started doing research on what's going on in the medical field, and I went back to my roots of nutrition being so important. I'm like, okay, let's start at the base and make sure that we're eating the right things to get our body healthy. And why are they being so disruptive with people who are talking about natural remedies and stuff like hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin and things, and they're just vilifying these people? I'm like, wow, why is it being so vindictive against these people? And so I just started doing research, and then I got a lot of details on big pharma, right, and how much they control our world today. And it's unbelievable when you start peeling back the onion of what happened and how our standard American medical system has been changed from the early 1900s. And so that got me really concerned, because there weren't practitioners like Dr. Ravi who really understand the whole body and want to treat the whole body. It was that they're specialists who specialize in really specific things, and they don't treat the person's holistically. And so I think that's what I started looking at and finding, and through, I was like, okay, how can I help? I'm not a doctor like Dr. Ravi. I didn't have his background. I was an athlete and a runner, but I said, I'll go help my community by creating supplements. So I went and started doing that. And then the gentleman that was led me to supplements, we were creating some specific formulas that were going to help people. And then he's like, have you heard of quantum energy? And I'm like, quantum what? And so I was introduced to this manufacturer and company who creates these amazing solutions. They've been working on this quantum field for 30 years. And what they showed me was just phenomenal. We end up putting little quantum energy frequencies and intentions onto these skin patches to help people with common issues, like pain relief is a huge one, right? Going on. I think it's just amazing. Over 50% of our seniors have chronic pain, and it's just a really big, difficult problem. And a lot of them are on big pharma drugs. In fact, the last research article I read had said that the average senior today in the United States is on 12 different prescription medications. 12. That's just crazy how many that they are on. So, my goal in life is to really help people and get them off of as many big pharma drugs and go back to what God gave us, an amazing body and an amazing immune system. Let's figure out how to help ourselves get better, and then we can lead people to Dr. Ravi, who are going to help us, holistically and help understand what's going on and help protect us from all, the next the pandemic, I think, that's coming in the next few months is what I'm foreseeing. So it's going to be interesting. Oh, I lost your audio.
There I am. I'm back.
There
right?
we go. Yeah.
I muted myself because I didn't want to interrupt you.
No problem.
But you brought up some great points about big pharma, and you brought up great points as to how we have to have doctors like Dr. Ravi in our corner, because how many doctors do you know who made house calls during the pandemic? Right. I know 0, yeah. But now I know 1.
I know one now. I know one now. Thank you, Dr. Ravi.
But think about that. Most people were terrified that misinformation, even the doctors were not sure as to what to do. But Dr. Ravi, you specialized in infectious diseases as well, right? Would you mind sharing that a little bit with us? You're muted. Let me unmute you 1 second. There you go.
All right. When I finished my physician's degree, I got my original license as a physician in 1983. So it's 40 years ago. So after I finished that, I actually did some residency back in India, and I was frustrated because a huge number of my patients were dying, and the dominant problem was infectious disease back in India. So I decided to take a break from clinical medicine, and I went into research. And the topic of my research thesis was actually, how does the body fight two of the most difficult infections that were there in India? One was tuberculosis, and the other was leprosy. So I started working on these infectious organisms, and in the process learned how to work with them safely. It was we were handling live Mycobacterium tuberculosis and Mycobacterium leprae organisms in the lab. So much of the techniques and methodologies I used to keep my staff and myself safe during the pandemic came right out of my lab days back in 1985 at the All India Institute of Medical Sciences, where I was working with these bacteria. And even though the pandemic was caused by a virus and not a bacterium, regardless, we were still working with potentially respiratory illnesses, like TB is very much a respiratory illness. So I could just take those techniques and bring it back to life again right now. And I use the same methodologies to keep my staff and myself safe and open up the doors to our practice without risk to everybody. The problem is the vast majority of physicians do not have the kind of training I had in two different disciplines. Most physicians go through medical school and they have just the most very, very peripheral exposure to both epidemiology as well as hardcore bench microbiology. They don't have that much experience. So as a result, the majority of physicians do not understand how to keep themselves safe. They do not understand how to deal with exposure to an infectious burden. They don't understand that. They understand how to keep themselves clean in an operating room, but they don't understand how to keep themselves clean inside a swamp. How can you wade? Like at one point, we were actually doing house calls into nursing homes. See, at one point, what we did was the nursing director of an Alzheimer's drug facility, Alzheimer's retirement community, they called us saying that we are having sick people. Can you come and test us? And when you go into an Alzheimer's, you are surrounded by elderly people who are confused. You can't tell a demented man to stay 6 feet away. You can't tell a demented man to wear a mask. He's going to pull the mask off. And if you are wearing a mask, he's going to think that you are some kind of a robber or some kind of a gangster out to hit him, and he'll attack you. And let alone go near him and try to put a probe into their nose to get some nasal secretion to collect. We were punched at, we were spat on, not to mention that when we put the probe in somebody's nose, they cough and sneeze upon us. So this is not, and we were walking into a facility of 200 elderly people, all of whom are confused, wandering around, sneezing, rubbing their nose, smearing secretions onto surfaces all around you. And you're walking into that and coming out and being safe. So it's a completely mind-blowing thing. In fact, when I mentioned it to my wife, she freaked out. She absolutely freaked out. She said, "You don't ever go back again and do that." And so I told her, "Yeah, I won't do it," but I kept doing it anyway.
One of the things that so many practitioners, and I was reading in your book, a lot of medical offices closed down entirely, right? And they thought it was going to be a short-term thing. Meanwhile, it lasted, and it's still going on. I just heard of somebody who just got COVID just 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
But here's the crazy thing. They got COVID. They're a young person. And 2 days later, they went out to a bar. So did we learn anything?
Unfortunately, human memory is very, very short.
Yes.
Humans' behavior, most people need an incentive. And the incentive either has to be fear or pleasure. One of the two things that will change behavior. You either need to have an incentive to change because there's a promise of something good and nice to you, or there's a promise of something really, really bad to you. both these two incentives are required for behavior to remain constant.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I was, and I had prepared a whole skit, you know, to talk to people about either they're becoming a coach or even how to find a coach. But I don't think my skit or my little prepared thing is going to be worthy of the conversation we're having, because for me, I think before we can become a coach or anything like that, I think we have to be human. I think we have to take the care that you took, Dr. Ravi, take the care that you took, Rob, in order to understand people, to help people. Because in reality, that's what a coach is somebody who helps somebody, right? So I'm not going to go through my whole spiel and everything, but I think that this conversation is really more powerful. And whether it's the pandemic, let's say even if we didn't have a pandemic, you would still be an amazing doctor, Dr. Ravi. Rob, you would still be doing quantum energy, and I would still be doing what I'm doing. But here's the thing: how do we show up every day, right? So, because I was going to talk about coaching, the benefits and the pitfalls, but if you think about it, every day we are coached or coursed into action, right?
Yeah.
Who are we listening to? Are we listening to the Facebook people? Are we listening to the Instagram people? Are we listening to our neighbors who may not have all the information? Are we listening to fake news, which is all over the place? So where are we when it comes to coaching? I think that I just want to leave it here, and then we'll keep this conversation going. I think that if you decide that you're going to be a coach, you have to be well versed in whatever it is that you're going to coach in. Don't just pick up a book and say, yep, I'm an expert. I don't think so. Right. So Dr. Ravi is an expert, not because he decided one day, yep, I'm gonna be a coach or I'm gonna be a doctor. No, he did his research. And from my understanding, Dr. Ravi, you were also in a place where I think it was for 9 years or 7 years, whatever it was, that you were
No.
there where people were dying, but you were kind of helping them along to see that even their last days meant something, right?
Yeah, I was a hospice director for 9 years. See, I had a wonderful mentor by the name of Dr. Talpers growing up, doing my residency. And he said that he would tell us, Dr. Iyer, the real problem is not the disease that you diagnose, but the question that is there in the heart of your patient as to how he is going to live with this set of circumstances that has come into his life. And you as a physician have to show him that either you're going to make the circumstances go away, or you're going to be, from this moment onwards, show him how he's going to live with it. And at all times, you have to impress upon him that he is not alone from this moment onwards. Till the very last breath, you will be by his side. And if you do this, if it doesn't matter if you don't have any medicine in your hands, you would have done your job as a physician. See, dealing with dying, you really have nothing to give, because nature is already taking them on the exit ramp of life. So we all are driving our cars down the highway of life. Some of us are driving Volkswagen, some of us are driving Lamborghinis. But regardless, at every one of us, at some point, is going to go on an exit ramp. And these exit ramp have different labels. Some have label of pneumonia, others have labels of heart attack, others have cancer, some reason. But regardless, once we are on that exit ramp, we are no longer given the privilege of getting back on the highway of life. And now, as a physician, my job is to help people while they are on the highway to drive safely and productively. And then for those of us who happen to enter the exit ramp, I have to make sure that they negotiate that last exit ramp with dignity and no fear.
Mm.
See, fear completely robs you of whatever there is that is a human in you. And Rob says about faith, and I believe I have a powerful faith. I keep that in the background and manifest it in my action, but I'm driven by as much faith as Rob is. But it's just that I don't talk about that. My faith is more humanistic, but regardless, it is faith. And a human being cannot walk through life without faith.
Agreed.
If you did not have faith, you would not even take your next breath, because there's no guarantee that your next breath is going to come to you. We let go of the breath we inhaled right now because we have faith that somehow we are going to get the next one.
Mm-hmm.
If we didn't have that faith, I promise you, you will hold this breath in. You will not let it go.
I totally agree. Every day I wake up and I breathe. You have to remember that you as an individual are here on the earth for a reason, right? And
Yes.
I think that's really important for people, like you said, to understand. And then if you can learn how to use that faith and get over the fear, that's what I think is really impactful. And even people who, you have much more experience at this than I do of helping people at the end of their life, but I strongly believe that we need to be able to give them hope, right? And it's not maybe just hope for their lives, but hope for their loved ones and hope for their grandchildren, and so that they focus on the good things, not the negative things. And I think that really, if we can get people to learn that they do have hope, and that they maybe there is a heaven, right? And that they have a better future ahead of them. That's the things that I think we can help people with in these difficult times, is to help them get over that thing. Because like you said, fear is really, really bad, right? Mm-hmm. Fear and that's what unfortunately our whole mainstream media did, and the narrative they created and crafted was around fear. I still see people out in a car by themselves with nobody around with a mask on, right? It's like, it's just so frustrating, because it's like they're so fearful that they're going to protect themselves in a car with a mask. It's ridiculous, but that's how well the narrative was. So we just, we need to, instead of getting mad at people like that, we need to love them, and hold their hand and say, what's wrong? Why are you scared? What's going? Why do you feel this way? And how can I love you into understanding that there is a better future for all of us? And and I lead with my faith, just because it's super important, and it's a big part of my company, right? We literally have Bible verses encoded onto the patches of our product, so that we want good things going through the person's body, to help them relieve their pain. And we want people to use their intentions, right? Positive intentions have a real physical impact on external things. So if we can teach people these things that I didn't understand a number of years ago, it's like, wow, it really makes a big difference in people's lives. So Dr. Ravi, I think you're a dying breed. I love what you do. And I love that you are so passionate about a person's life, that you want to give them that hope, and you want to be there till their dying breath. I think, unfortunately, the way the American medical system has been today is they don't get that. They get a specialist for this, they get a specialist for that, they get a specialist for this, and they have, oh, Jesus, can take me 3 months to get into that one, and then I have a 15-minute Zoom call with that one, and that there's no love, and there's no care, and there's no wrapping your arms around people to help them through that period. So I just want to commend you and thank you for that. You had that mentorship that you had, and I want you to be able to replicate yourself wildly. So I love that you're out on podcasts. So good job.
One of the things that you talked about, Rob, is how people are still driving around with a mask on, and they're alone in their car. They're being overcautious, right? And that I rather see somebody overcautious than somebody over foolish. For example, today, Dr. Ravi texted me earlier and I responded. I was not driving, so that's why I was able to respond, right? But here's the thing. Today was a weird day on the street. It's a weird day everywhere, but on the roads, it was more traffic. Maybe it's because we're having a holiday weekend. People were cutting each other off without care. People were going into traffic. I was at a stoplight, a light, not a stop sign, and a gentleman on a motorcycle decided he was going to make a left. Meanwhile, he had the red light. He just, thank God nothing happened to him, right? But it's when people go around without care, without focus, without anything. Those are the people I worry more about than the person driving alone in a car. Yes, they are a little silly and we can kind of laugh at them, but I'd rather have somebody who's overcautious than somebody who gives no care, not only for themselves, but for anybody else. Let's say that motorcyclist made a left turn, right? And he did, and somebody hit him and maybe threw him 36 feet. But
Right.
he landed on somebody. That one bad action could have repercussion to more than just him. It could have affected the people in the car that hit him. Maybe there was children. Maybe that caused another reaction where somebody else on the street got hit. So I rather see people who are overly cautious. And Dr. Ravi, what is your thought on that when it comes to the medical profession, that sometimes we have to lead a little bit with caution before we jump in with both feet?
So, in the area of personal protection, we kept trying to explain to people that you can be cautious and balance caution with human compassion. So the problem is when you use, for example, you wear a mask and you see somebody who's not wearing a mask. The reason why people were not wearing a mask is either they have a wrong idea that somehow their freedom is being impinged upon, or they are being dictated to by somebody who they don't, or simply because they just don't like the sensation of a mask. So
Or you do research about how effective masks are and you realize they don't help you. So that's another.
Correct. Yeah. So one of the things we did was that we found that face shields were just as good as surgical masks. And it had the added advantage of not being as oppressive and not and still provided some distance from people and provided the protection. And we were using face shields heavily in the practice. It also allowed us our face to be seen by the patient, and therefore facial expressions were seen, and that allowed a connection to happen. So we adapted in those forms of measures. There were some patients who insisted on wearing a mask. I said, yeah, fine, you can go ahead and wear a mask if you want to wear a mask. And if you want to wear face shields, that is equally safe. And I have plenty of examples of people who went through the entire pandemic wearing nothing more than a face shield and quite safe throughout. The problem is when you try to, the real problem in the pandemic was not the fact that people were not being cautious. People were not being explained why they need to do anything. People were allowed to just, and the people who were doing the explaining were not being consistent with their stories. They were, for example, early on, they said masks are not important. The authorities from the CDC. But They wanted, the reason why they were saying that was because they wanted all the healthcare workers to have masks, and they felt that there were not enough masks to go around. So rather than saying that there's a shortage of masks and we would like everyone, the most important people, they said, oh, masks are not important unless you're in healthcare. Now, any person in the street is going to say, hey, wait a minute, if that it's important for that guy, but it's not important for me, what the hell are you trying to pull on me? So immediately that undermined the messaging completely. So this kind of conflicted messaging was a real problem during the pandemic.
Yeah, what I totally agree. I think the messages that were relayed to us, and the narrative they were painting was at the end of the day. Now we can look back on it and you can see how negative it was and how bad it was and how wrong it was. But that's all. Hindsight's always easier, right? You can go back and look and see. But I just think it was important that we respect that. Now we need to learn how to get our information. Don't get your information from TikTok or from Instagram or from Facebook. Get Instagram from people that you know and trust. And I think, I want to bring it back to the coaching conversation, in the respect that one of the things I think is so important for all of us to coach ourselves in our life is to have mentors, right? And have good people like Dr. Ravi had his mentor who taught him how to care for patients, right? And throughout his life, I'm sure that he still continued to have relationships with mentorships and people who were better than him at different areas. And I think that's really important for all of us in life, is to go through this life and just stretch yourself and learn from people who are better at you at certain areas. And then when you educate yourself with what their information is, then you can become better. Right. So if you're going to try to help someone, then learn from Dr. Ravi. Look at what he's doing and how he's doing it, and use some of those things so you can become a better person. Right. And so that's why I want to just caution people, is that don't listen to a narrative. Find people that you know and that you trust, and do your own research. Because I think that's another huge thing that's really been important to me through this process. Was I don't believe anything anybody says to me anymore. I really don't. I will listen to it and I will take in that information, but I'm going to go do my own research on that particular topic. And I have to check it against 3 or 4 or 5 different resources, and some of them vary, right? And it's like, okay, after I've read all of that, now I can make my decision. Masks is a perfect example, right? Because you can read 20 different articles about masks, and you can make lots of difference of opinion. But my opinion now is, after doing all my research, that masks are useless, and for a product, for a problem like COVID. And so, and I think that they've proven, factually, lots of studies that they are not helpful and for a virus like COVID. So it's just crazy to me that now they're going to start trying to do the narrative again. It's like, oh, I got to instill fear on everybody, so we got to have masks. Got to wear a mask on an airplane. You got to, it's just like, it's incredible to me how they can turn a narrative around. So anyway, I don't mean to diverge, but I think that your coaching topic is amazing. I love it. I think that we two advices I have is find a good mentor, right? And or 2 good mentors who are better at you at something, and learn from them. And that's going to help you be a better coach, a life coach, a better doctor, a better, health practitioner, a better athletic coach, whatever it is you want to be. But then also do your own research. Don't just accept the narrative. Don't accept even the scientific evidence of one person, because guess what? There's going to be another scientific evidence that says just the opposite. So which one do you believe? Right. So it's hard, but just get better at doing your own research rather than just listening to what other people are telling you. So
I love that you said that, Rob, because one of the topics that on my whole thing, it was about, don't always believe in your coach, even though they're going to guide you, right? Because what happens is we become lazy, and we only are going to listen to their advice, and we're not doing our own research. So you're right. We should have more than one coach, more than one mentor. I have several. And the reason for that is because everybody has a different opinion. even on the
Right.
same subject, right? So that's important. So let me just talk about the mask thing. I have several clients of mine that are still wearing masks. One of them is a doctor. Okay. He has no other sicknesses. He and his whole family wears masks because that's his thing.
Right.
One of my other clients, their kids have autoimmune, so they wear it just to keep the kids safe. So, Dr. Ravi, with everything that you know, do you still wear masks unless you're going into surgery or something of the nature? But out in public, if you go to the supermarket, you go to anywhere shopping, do you wear
At,
masks
at
now
this
or no?
point, at this point, no, I don't.
Likewise.
Well, there are a couple of things that I have that I know that other people don't. Um, One of the things that I know, I got myself tested at my level of immunity.
Mhm.
And there is a small percentage of patients, of people who, in addition to developing immune antibodies, they develop very robust T cell immunity. And those who develop robust T cell immunity, they become what is called super immune. The number of people who develop that T cell immunity is not many. In fact, people are studying why some people develop it and some don't. In my practice, both my partner and I, we got ourselves tested. And I have that T cell immunity. He doesn't.
Mm.
We both have high levels of antibodies, but I have, in addition, a robust T cell immunity, which means that my body reacts not just to COVID, but to almost every coronavirus with that. And this is universal for those who develop T cell immunity.
Mm.
Now, not every patient develops a strong, robust T cell immunity to COVID. And in fact, people are actually studying why that is so and how they can make it such that everyone develops it. Because once you develop it, you truly become immune.
Mm.
Just like the way you get immunity, lifelong immunity to smallpox if you happen to get the disease or if you're vaccinated. There are certain diseases where if you have get vaccinated or get exposed to the disease, you develop lifelong immunity. There are other diseases to which your immunity is not lifelong. It lasts for anywhere from 2 years to 10 years, and then you have to get re-vaccinated. Uh, the people who develop T cell immunity to COVID are the population that becomes super immune. They are not huge, but it is now well recognized that there is a population that does develop strong, robust T cell immunity.
Mm.
But coming back to whether I wear a mask, I don't. But I don't prevent people from wearing masks. When I go to the community, COVID as it exists now is more of a nuisance or an annoyance than a lethal disease.
Mhm.
But I would tell you this, that if you have a bad, like if you have autoimmune disease, if you have cancer, if you have some other lethal condition or bad heart disease, then getting COVID can be a nasty, nasty event, and you are better off being protected in some way.
Mhm.
Uh, if you are otherwise healthy and you got yourself vaccinated, you can pretty much get an infection, and then you can take the antiviral Paxlovid or something equivalent and recover from it.
Very
There is
interesting. Very
there is
interesting.
there is still a long COVID is still a continuing problem that can affect anybody, but uh, and people are still trying to comprehend why that happens. But it has something to do with the long-term activation of the ACE2 receptor, with, to which the COVID virus binds. And it seems that a few people, their ACE2 receptors continue to be inappropriately triggered even after the infection is gone. And they continue to manifest the feeling of fast heart rate and blood pressure problems that produce long COVID. There's also this issue of inappropriate microscopic clots that can cause brain fog that is emerging as a problem. Long ago, back in March of 2020, right in the beginning of COVID itself, we in our practice got into the habit of putting all our patients, long before medicines came out, we were putting our patients on aspirin for a 1 year. If they got COVID, even though they recovered in 2 weeks, they cleared the virus in 2 weeks, we advised them to take aspirin for 1 year after COVID. And I believe that the patients in my practice recovered much better due to these measures that we instituted, putting them all on higher dose vitamin D, vitamin C, zinc, and aspirin for excellent for as long as 1 year after recovery from COVID. The other thing that we also put them on was a bunch of herbal supplements that I would give them slips that they can get from Amazon, like green lip mussel, frankincense, boswellia, and things like that, that are all anti-inflammatory in their properties. And we gave it to them so that they could continue to do their recovery well. Patients in my practice did not experience the long COVID as much as other people did. But and I believe that the strategy we employed in putting them on low dose anti-inflammatories for extended periods of time post COVID made a big difference in how they recovered from it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You know, one of the things that, Rob, you spoke about Big Pharma before. Can I tell you, I can't recall the last time I was sick. It's been over 20 years.
Good job. That's amazing.
And I take zero medication. And it's because I work out every day. I eat right. I'm always moving. I'm always learning. So you guys taught me so much today. What I want to do is I want to take a quick second to just introduce you guys to Jose for a quick second. I know he was not here. He had technical difficulties, but let's take a quick look at this.
Hi, my name is Jose Escobar, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Connected Leaders Academy. We're a growing tribe, a community of entrepreneurs all over the world, globally, all across the country, high performers, titans of industry. If you're an entrepreneur and you're looking to grow personally and professionally, scale your influence, develop your skill sets, move the needle in your business, more clients, more money, more profit, the bottom line, and of course, grow your circle and your network like never before, this is where you want to be. Join the Connected Leaders Academy today. We are scaling massively. We want to welcome you in. Check me out on Instagram and on Facebook, the @ JAESCO25. We look forward to having you join us. Take care.
So that was my co-host, and I'm sure you guys will get to meet him at a different time.
That'll be great.
I want to share with you guys one thing that we all should be very aware of: our own fitness, of our own health, of our own finances. We need to coach ourselves. And you said it before, Rob. We need to coach ourselves because this is one life we have to live. And on the highway that we are driving, we need to avoid those exit ramps that can come early if we don't take care of ourselves. Because guess what? A lot of people will hit that exit sign early because they didn't do the right thing for themselves. I want to thank you both for being here with me today. This was an exceptional show. I really appreciate you both. Just hang around for a second as we say goodbye to everybody. Last quick comments, 30 seconds, 60 seconds each. Go. Who's up?
I'll go. Dr. Ravi, a pleasure meeting you, and just thank you for having us on your show. Heroes Rising is amazing, and we love what you do. And I just implore people to learn from themselves. And if you're interested in getting off of big pharma drugs, I have a website, qestrong.com, and pain relief is our biggest product. So if you have anybody that has pain or you want to use all natural solutions, go there and we'll help you.
Beautiful. Dr. Ravi.
Thank you, Rob. It was a pleasure meeting you. And Rafael, it was an honor to come back on your show a second time. You people who want to see what we do at the clinic here, the Iyer Clinic, and what I do in my work, can follow me at www.driyer.com, driyer.com. The focus of my work is entirely on empowerment, which I do in my clinic, in my healthcare work, and in the narratives and communications I do about taking control of the narrative. Thank you once again. We'll see you soon.
Yes. Take care, everybody. Have an amazing rest of your day.
Yeah, God bless.
Bye-bye.